Okay, so my name is Jarian Gibson. I'm going to talk about some director stuff, not out-of-the-box director, but some things you can do with the API that you can hit and pull some custom data out of. So let's talk about director. The first thing I'm going to talk about is edge site to director, some of the changes, especially around two things that are missing from director. Edge site reports, everybody remembers this interface. You go into edge site, there's some nice reports, there's some pre-canned ones, you can make some custom ones, a whole lot of information. Edge site had its ups and downs, but the reporting thing was one of the ups for edge site. It also had alerting as well, so out of the box you could do things like integrate with SMS and SMTP, so you could set up alerting, and based on certain actions you could get alerted via email or SMS. Like Teresa was saying though, if you didn't do your exclusions, Pac-Man would eat all your performance on your machines, your CPU, your memory, the Firebird service, and the RS core service would pretty much do this to your system performance. So director does have some reports, and with director 6.5 and then with 7 they kind of redid director, replaced some of the edge site functionality, put some more features into it, but all the features aren't there yet. So you do have the ability to get some reports, but it's a manual process. So you have to actually go and click through, drill down to what you want to see, and then you can export it as a CSV or a PDF and then email to somebody, which is kind of a manual process, right? Not as fun as it used to be. Alerting, the same thing. You don't really get any email alerts, no integration with SMTP or SMS. When you log into the console, if something's going wrong, you get this nice drop down telling you what's on fire, and then you can go and click and drill down, but you have to be in the console to know these kind of things. There's no automated action to help you out. So that's some of the stuff when you go from edge site to director. Any questions so far? Everybody use director, they love it? Find it a whole lot easier? Awesome. Yep. So let's talk about reporting. Real quick, I'm going to go over the architecture of in Desktop 7 and higher. And you kind of see here, you'll have your director, you'll have the director service, it will talk back into your controllers, and you may or may not have HDX Insight, which you can also display inside of the networking tab in director. And there's a backend database and the actual monitoring service API that lives on your controllers. Yeah. Correct. So I was talking about that. There's no more agents. So it's all built into the VDA. So before, yeah, we're just shot glass. And there are some hooks there. Not all the information is available, like there was with edge site. A lot of it's there. They're still bringing more functionality over to it. But it's all built into the VDA. No more separate edge site install. No more issues when you're doing PVS or MCS on where the database goes for the local edge site client. It's all built into the director and then or to the VDA, pulled into the environment through the controllers and director into the database. Good question. Any other questions? So when you're kind of looking at pulling it, here's kind of some of what it does right here. Again, it's on the VDA, it's built in, talks to the broker service, talks to the monitoring service, and then stores into a database. You may or may not have the database separate, which you can split out to its own database, which I recommend you do if you're going to be doing a lot of historical data instead of keeping it inside of your site database. By default, when you load up Zen Desktop, it does go into your site database. You have to go in there and split it out afterwards. So here's kind of the data schema they have when you want to hit the API. There's all kinds of information in there, and there's two different ways you can hit the API and get information. One is more of the historical data. The other is going to be more of the stuff you see in director. The stuff that you see in all the queries and stuff when you go into the console and see it. That's where one you'll have to hit, and the other one's all the historical data. A better view of the data sets is kind of right here, which you can hit directly in a browser. Hit one of your controllers, insert your controller name here, go to the right path, and you can see certain data inside of your browser. It's in the eDocs. Actually got something right.
Only after you've provided feedback right there.
Yeah. So this is all the data you can hit in there. There's different categories to base what you want to look for. There is a metadata string as well, and I'll show you that here in a second. But right here is some of the monitoring API. So again, the two different ways you can hit it. The methods, this is the stuff you see in Director. The actual chart, historical chart stuff you see inside when you go in there and click and drill down. That's the top URL. The data URL is the one that you'll go in and you can pull all the data that's in the database and get even more reports out of it. Now when you actually go and hit it in the browser, when you want to see the full XML, because it will be in XML format, you put a $sign on the end of it, or slash metadata $sign on the end to see that portion. So right here, if you hit the methods, here's some of the information you'll get. Just a screenshot of the XML dump out you'll see in there. So all kinds of information you'll see in your environment. Same thing on the data side, you'll see. So just go in there and hit the slash metadata $sign, and that will go ahead and show you some nice XML data that you can look through. Now as far as accessing it, has anybody tried this at all? Looking at the API? Pull any kind of information or query against it? Do any kind of reporting? Yeah, I'll show you how to do it. That's good. So there's a couple tools that you can use to hit the API. You can use there's the PowerShell Explorer you can use out there on CodePlex you can download, and you can hit it right through and put a URL in and pull back some of the XML data and have certain different fields and categories out there. You can also use Click. There's a free version out there which you can use to hit it as well. What you do is make an Excel file with the information you want in it, put it in Click, and then Click you can go through and massage the data. It's actually a lot easier to use out of all the methods to get the data. Excel as well. So if you're using Excel 2013 or 2010, there's actually an option in there to connect to an OData feed and pull that back and also do some different queries. I'll show you some examples here coming up in the deck. And also there's LinkPad as well. LinkPad is a little more advanced because you have to actually know C# statements to pull the data. But again, it still connects to those two URLs I talked about. So click.com is where you can get the Click one. Excel's Microsoft, and then the LinkPad's from linkpad.net. Has anybody used Click or the PowerShell Explorer or LinkPad or anything? LinkPad? Good. It's nice, but you gotta, like I said, know the C statements or the C# statements or other methods to get the data. So in Excel, when you go through and launch Excel, go to the data tab, and you can go through and say from other sources and do an OData feed. Once you get to the OData feed, you go through and put your URL in there to hit the data or the methods, and then you can go ahead and pull back. It will use your credentials you're logged into it if you're on the domain. If not, you can specify your credentials. Correct, that's the controller, because the actual monitoring service is on the controller. It's not on the Director. Director just is the browser that shows you all the information, but actually hitting the data is in the controller. That's why when you set up your Director servers, you actually go in and put the broker names in there, because that's how it's talking to it, is through that same method. It just has the pretty interface. It's using the API to hit it to pull the data in, pretty much. Any other question? So you can hit a lot of stuff via the API in here. You can also query SQL direct still. Some people find it easier with SQL statements because they've done it with EdgeSite or Resource Manager in the past, and they continue to use SQL statements to query the data. I'm not going to put that up here because I'll knock it over. So once you go through and you pull in the actual OData feed, you'll see all the information that's in that from the URL. So this one, for example, is the data, and you can click through the tabs and actually see the different categories you can see for data and categories, and it'll all populate so you can go ahead and see that information. And then from there you can kind of pick how you want to actually massage and model the data to make any kind of reports or any little dashboards that you want to send out. So here's an Excel sample right here, and this one I just pulled back the version of the VDA in the operating system. This is a simple one from Excel. Go in and pick your categories. If you're working with Power Pivot and Excel, that's the same concept. You're just using the data from the OData API. So this tells me how many desktops I have and how many Windows servers I have and what the version of the VDA is. Here's another one, operating system breakdown. So just another simple example. You can put on a dashboard, and if you have multiple OS in there, you could see it, break it down the percentages, and show that information. Here's another Excel sample here, and this just shows the number of the client versions out there, and you'll see the actual 5 stands for the HTML5 client, and then you'll see the actual ones for the actual receiver on the bottom, their actual version. What's that? Oh. Yeah, well, this was my lab that we were using for our monitoring session, so we only had a couple clients in it. There's actually more data in there, but just pulling the client version, we only had the HTML5 or the 14 version. So LinkPad, here's LinkPad, kind of same thing. You open it up, you add a connection, same type of URL that you'll put if you're doing an OData feed in Excel. Put your credentials in, click OK, and then it should bring back all of your data for methods or data or both if you add both different URLs in there. And when you add that in there, this is what you'll see in LinkPad Explorer for all the different data you can go look at it and pull information from. LinkPad reports. So again, your C statements. So here's an example one, and this one is like last day usage report that you can pull out using a query with LinkPad. And here's a real-time session report, and this actually will display in LinkPad, and you can export this as a HTML or yeah, this is our lab testing for Synergy for our monitoring session, but you can export it as a HTML or CSV as well out of LinkPad. So this is just the view that you get inside the Explorer. Yeah, what were you doing in there at 6 o'clock in the morning? That's your login, not the login VSI ones. Here's some more LinkPad samples here. So last log off report, showing the username and date and time, and then day since last log off, so you can get kind of granular with those statements and what kind of data you want to pull. And then here's another sample of a connection report, and this actually has a lot of columns, which I'll see if I can connect in and do some live demo stuff and show you. But there's actually 4 of the columns that show you more information on this report. I just had to cut it off for the screenshot, what to show. Now let's see if I can connect in. Hopefully I can connect in my lab. Looks like I got disconnected while I was talking, so let me try to get back in here. Any questions while I'm doing this?
What have been some real world either customer deployments or otherwise?
It's mostly the reports have been this customer, what they've wanted. I've actually gone and made like a bunch of reports out of the box. If they wanted something, I've gone and just made it for them.
And what do you use as
Yeah, so you can use an Excel spreadsheet, you can use PDF, you can also send them a CSV, I use some HTML files, and they put them on like a web page someone can go to and look at. So.
Have you helped anybody do real time, like through ASP.NET or anything like that?
Actually something I'm working on is actually making a dashboard that can pull the data back in, because I had one customer who's wanting to have more than one product in of Citrix. So I've been asking all the different APIs so I can pull that in, because they want a single pane of glass type view for certain things, but there's not one today. So that's something I've been working on for a customer. And I'm not connecting. This is fun. Yeah, I need a network connection because I lost mine and it's not letting me reconnect. What's that? All right.
5 gig per month.
It's got one of those passwords. Really? Yeah. You probably. That's okay. I can have a bad one.
Come on, any other questions while this is connecting? It was a busy week. It was fun though. Also, one thing too, while I'm waiting for the connect because it's still sitting here spinning, I was talking to Jason at Synergy, and there's actually a different way they're going to be able to bring in OData feeds into Splunk. So that's something I'm going to start working on as well, since right now it's not official, but it's in the GitHub project. So it's the dashboard thing you were asking about, Dane.
Yeah.
I might be able to do that with Splunk. Do you have the? You also have to go and enable the Power Pivot plugin. All right. You see, I'm connecting. What's that? Oh, I can walk you through connecting if you want. See me change my display to mirror.
So how'd your dead skins do the draft?
They didn't draft yesterday because they didn't have a first round pick this year because that went to the Rams. So let me see. In here I'm connected into my lab, and this is, can everybody see this okay? Any bigger? So this is the LinkPad application, and again, you can go in here, add a connection. You'll select your the WCF data services for OData for the feed from the monitoring API, and then once you're connected, you'll put in your credentials, and again, you'll see all this information. I have some queries loaded up here, so like this one right here. Again, these are C# statements you have to put in to get this data, but it goes in and it queries your controller directly to get this data. So this is a last log-off failure report with a custom date. So this is the last 60 days. And it pulls back information, like you see here, the username, the end date, some of their session key information, the exit code. And again, you can export this stuff, Excel, Word, HTML. That way you can make it nicer and put it on a pretty page or send to somebody. Another one I have, I can share these example reports. Remote PC usage, but I don't have any remote PCs in my environment right now, so that won't pull back anything. Did you get the feed in there, Dane? Okay, I can run through that real quick too, since you're being a user. So when you go into Office, make sure you go into Options, and you enable, oops, not open, Options, and you enable the add-in for it. And if you go down, do the COM add-ins, and click Go, you should be able to select it, and then you should see your Power Pivot tab inside Excel. Once you're in there, all you have to do is go through and manage, which I already have an app here, but I can show you a new one. So right here, just the connection I have to my existing one. Name it and then put that same URL in there. And then when you come back with the connection, it should show you all the data inside of here. all the tables. This one's for the data model, but in here there's like the catalogs right here, so you can see all information on the catalogs. You can see, here's some of the connection ones. So your connection catalog, and like I said, there's a bunch of information here. You can see, pretty much you can see everything, where they're coming from, the broker, the date, all kinds of information in here you can pull back. Not all fields will be populated, but there's some good data in here to model reports off of. Correct. So if you're Enterprise Platinum, it's going to follow that that model. Now, technically, as a workaround, you could pull the data out and put it somewhere else and get around that, but I didn't tell you that. So. So in here, any more information, like here's the desktop groups, all kinds of information, hypervisor connection. This one's only connected to our Nutanix block that we were gracious enough to be loaned. So that's the only one you'll see in there. All your machines. So again, you can pull all kinds of stuff out of here for making reports. The next phase that I'm going to do is actually finish the project I'm working on for the customer, how they want the nice dashboard, and share that as a community tool. So if anyone's interested in that. Sound good? And there's just some sample ones I created. And then let me see, where's the other piece at? The click view piece. The other tool you can use, and this is where you have to actually have an Excel file with all the rows in it and everything. The information you can export out to a regular Excel file and then import that. And it goes back and it pulls in all the different columns and everything from this, all the tables in there. And then once you get in there, you can save it. Pick what kind of report you're going to create, and then you can populate the chart. I would go back and look at my fields. If you line up the actual fields right, I want to start that one over. But you go to click through, and this is actually a lot easier to massage. I didn't have the example file that I put in there, didn't have the columns labeled properly in my demo environment, but this is actually much easier to use and massage and export out than having to use LinkPad or in the browser. Now again, we talked about the browser piece of this. I might have to come back to that later and show you guys. You know, this is all the full information when you query it directly and you hit the metadata string. This is everything that is pulling back. And you can also directly query in the browser as well. So for instance, in LinkPad, come on. I think my connection froze. This is what I was fighting back there when I was trying to show you the other environment I could get into and show reports from. Yeah, my connection froze. Any other questions? My demo gods aren't good to me today, so I'm trying to reconnect. So it's hard to make more extensible. So all the data you see that's in Director and even more data that's in the database that they don't actually present, you can pull and make your own dashboards, reporting, and those type of things for. So there's actually more data from the VDA that it gets than what you actually see inside of the Director.
Is there really any additional advanced options you will for Director itself? The default installation.
There are some things you can tweak in the application settings, but it's mostly as good as it gets. What you're going to see in there. You know, the only additional bonus you'll get is when you add Director or HDX Insight and tie it to that and get the networking tab in there. But as far as the view you get in there is kind of what you get for now. I know they are working on, and I get a lot of feedback on that. So they're actually working on adding some more things like, there was one, I gave feedback on licensing. And they were showing that in the, I think, in the booth they were showing that Synergy. Like in a couple months ago, so you actually saw your license information. And that one picture I showed, PowerShell. I have actually some PowerShell scripts I can share as well for that. So I have one where it's a scheduled task. It checks it periodically. If they're getting low on licenses or they hit a certain threshold, it sends an email to the admin. So, but in this alerting right here, the new, if you guys didn't see that Synergy, the new stuff they're showing for the next director is that this will also turn red if your licenses are at a certain capacity threshold, if they're out of SA, expired, and so forth. You'll see that in here. It's not in there today. So. Yeah, that's configurable for the threshold. It's also, there's other things we're adding there too as well as for more detailed view that's not in there.
It says no SMTP?
Yeah, so this is just today, so there's no alerting in director. There's nothing there. It's basically the web page. If you're in it, you're in it. You get to see the stuff. If you're not, you don't get anything. Now there's third-party tools you can do, and there's other companies that pull data from the API and get the reports. Like I know Goliath's one of them. A lot of the reports you see in Goliath's Monitor IT, they pull from the API and create the same reports with the same method I'm doing it. So. Go back to this. So in here on your request log, you got the URL. So here's an example URL right here that you can put in the browser and query directly to get something. It's a whole browser string instead of having to put this command, or you can do commands right from the browser. Let's see. Any other questions?
Why are you finishing 15 minutes early?
Actually, it's 10 minutes early, and I can't get to my other demo lab to show you the good stuff right now. I was trying to work on back there.
Well, you have more time to figure it out.
Yeah, I can try and figure it out. Let me see. What's that?
Brad's going to help
I'll
us.
come up and help you.
Brad's going to help. Brad will fill the picture.
I'm like a demo guy.
Let me,
That's all you hear is the oh God then. Schema the same demo guy when you walk in the room. And then oh God, not again. Then you're taking the practice.
yeah, I'm still not able to get in that environment. So, any other questions?
Okay.
I apologize for my live demo trying to work today.
Anybody else?
I'll record some videos, and I can record videos and put all the information up so you guys can get to it. Yeah.
Question. Did you find any nuggets into the data? Because the first time we actually ourselves kind of moved towards the available.
As far as this,
As far as some data that you think will be accessible to everybody?
no, because I was just amazed at how much you can get just from that simple feed. How much data that you can actually pull back was what really surprised me, because everything's exposed in there. Yeah.
It was just too much.
Yeah. And which the good thing between when you went from EdgeSite to Director is that EdgeSite was way too much for some people. It was kind of overwhelming, and this is Director's kind of dumbed down. But if you want the advanced stuff, you kind of have to go through the API to get it. So.
What about like the active counters and things like that? Is that over
I can double check on the perf counters. I know that the HDX info is. So, like the channels that you see. Yeah, you do have the latency numbers in there. So actually, yeah, you're right. There should be, yeah, because the latency counter's there. But it's not the actual, I don't know if it's the actual perf counter, but there is latency information that you can pull from the feed. So. Any other questions? If I can get my demo back up, I can show you guys on the side later if I can get to that environment.
Yeah, no problem. You put us ahead of schedule. Dennis, you're up next.
Can we give a break?
What? No? Yep.
Yeah.